Hello again, everyone. Again, my name is Melissa Raspberry. I work for the American Institutes for Research, and we have the honor and pleasure of hosting the CS for All Teachers community. I'm very excited to have with us tonight three great presenters who are going to be talking about the important topic of strategies for creating an equity-focused CS classroom. We are recording this webinar, and we'll be posting both the recording as well as the slides on the CS for All Teachers website on the event posting. I'll be sure to include that link momentarily. So afterwards, if you have a colleague that you'd like to share the recording with, you'll be able to go to that event posting and download both the recording as well as those slides. If you have any issues tonight with your audio or connectivity or any other technical issues, you're welcome to put a note in the audience chat box, and I'll be glad to help you with that. We do ask if you connect your audio that you keep yourself muted when you're not speaking so that we can cut down on background noise. But as I mentioned, we have three fabulous computer science teachers. They're going to lead the discussion tonight, and our host for the evening is Mrs. Tina Boyle-White. Tina is a former high school teacher. She's an adjunct instructor at Marquette, and she currently serves as a community ambassador for the CS for All Teachers community. So without further ado, Tina, I'm turning it over for you and putting it in your capable hands.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and I want to welcome each of you this evening to our webinar. And if you're just coming into the webinar, please share with us in the audience chat who you are, where you're from, and what you're teaching. And I'm excited to be here with you this evening on a topic around strategies for creating an equity-focused classroom. And of course, I can't do this alone. I have two great presenters with me this evening. I have Nicole Larson. Please forgive me if I pronounce that wrong. Nicole is a high school teacher, computer science facilitator, and a former community ambassador. Nicole, can you say hi to everybody?
Hello, it's great to have you on tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Nicole, did I say your name right? I do apologize. Oh, good. I'm so good. I'm so excited. All right, and we have Art Lopez with us this evening. Art is a former high school teacher. He's a district curriculum specialist in his current role. He is a part of Computer Science Teachers Association. He's the San Diego president, and he is a CSTA board high school rep. Art, can you say hi to everybody this evening?
Hello, everybody. It's really great to be here and looking forward to sharing this evening with you. And just to let you guys know, I'm still teaching in high school. I still teach a couple of classes.
You can't ever leave that. It's just the joy. You got to find a way to work your way back in there. So we get to welcome both of you, Nicole and Art. Thank you so much for joining us. And Nicole, you have a picture of it. We'll just let you share that before we go on. What was this picture about? You want to share really quickly?
Sure. Last year, I had the awesome opportunity to have Pluralsight, a tech company in Utah, who has kind of like the Netflix of webinars and trainings to be trained in anything with computer science. They came to my class and worked with my students. We had done some wireframe apps, and they pretty much brought in enough app developers that for every 2 students there's an app developer to look at the wireframes they created and then help them go build those apps within like a 90-minute period. So it was awesome, and then they tweeted about this great opportunity we had.
Oh, this is so exciting. And you know, before I leave this slide, I'm honored to have two amazing people with us this evening, just great in the community. So if you have any questions, those of you who are on the line, don't hesitate. Melissa is facilitating the questions. She will help us out, and we will occasionally pause to see what questions you have. So we want this to be interactive. If you want to be able to say something, chime in. So we're open to that as well. So today, what we're really looking at is we're looking at equity going from theory to practice. And so when we think about this question, equity, you know, people often get it confused with equality. And I love, if you have never seen the equity versus equality images, you know, equality is everybody gets the same thing, but in equity, every individual gets what they need to be successful in their classroom or in whatever they're doing. And so tonight what we're going to do is we're really going to talk about that by looking at some concrete strategies and talking about how do we accomplish that? Not equality, but equity, giving each person what they need. And so the question that we're going to entertain tonight, again, not from a theoretical point of view, but from a practice, like how do you deal with that student that looks different? How do you deal with that student that learns different? So that's our main goal. And so how is equity represented in your CS courses? And so when we look at that, what are the practices that you do in your courses that causes equity to exist? And so we're going to look at it from a four-pronged approach. We're going to look at equity from recruitment. How do you bring those students in? Retention. How do you retain those students, who they are? Classroom management. How do you handle the diversity in your classroom? How do you manage behaviors? How do you manage learning styles? And then the content. What content do you create? How do you do that? Do you adapted for different students? Do you give them what they need? So the four-pronged approach we're going to use is recruitment, retention, classroom management, and content. Okay? So when we start thinking about equity and recruitment, you know, we want to make sure that we, and Art and Nicole, be ready because I'm going to throw a question at you as I'm throwing this out. When we think about recruitment and equity and recruitment, what are the demographics of your school site? Does it mirror what's in your classroom? Do you have one specific homogeneous population in your classroom, or do you have the representative of your school environment? And then can you match the demographic population in your CS classroom? So before I go on and finish those points, Nicole, from your experience in your background, and you've done a lot working with code, working with teachers, you know, I would like for you to talk first about your classroom, and then we'll talk about some other things that we've seen. Share
Awesome.
with us.
Thank you so much. So when I started teaching computer science back in 2013 or so, I was kind of voluntold that would be my new position, which I was like, I don't do computer science, but sure, I'll figure it out. And when I showed up in the classes that I was given, Programming 1, Programming 2, AP Java, IB, higher level, lower computer science, I did not see the demographic in the classroom that represented the hallway. And it was really disheartening because I was used to teaching classes where everyone at school was in there, and being in a classroom where that was not represented, I was really struggling. So I was grateful enough to be able to go to a Tapestry workshop where I learned about how to increase equity, how to be more intentional in my recruiting. I was able to work alongside with the ECS team and Gail Chapman and Joanna Good to find out, hey, what is it that's going on that I can do as a teacher? And so over the years, I've been able to build my program that my classes do represent the hallway. And I've done a really fantastic job getting my counselors on board so that I have pretty much 50-50 girls and boys, and then getting just all kids in the classroom regardless of their prior experience in computer science. So that intentional conversations happening in the counseling and me doing my job with the kids out in the hallway. Hey, come to my class today. I know you're not one of my students, but guys, I'll write a note that you're taking a test. Come visit, see what it's like, and then when you get that magic paper to sign up, this is the class I want you to take next year. And so it kind of opened up those doors of, hey, come see what it's like, try it. But it's a trick. It really is intentional work.
And you know, I like that you said the intentional work. You know, we as teachers, we wear many hats and many roles, and then some of us just come to our classroom and then just go home. But in a CS environment, you know, when I was at the high school, I would do after school, I would do lunch duty, I would do hall duty. You name it, I did it. And it was like, she's everywhere. Who is this person? And then when they walked past my classroom, I would often have the lights off. And it's like, what are you guys doing there? And just the lights off would create some curiosity. I was teaching video game design. It's like, hey, come on in. Learn how to build a video game. And so when you do things like what you were saying, Nicole, you become that go-to teacher, that teacher, Miss Reese Larson, I want to be with her. She's cool. She's everywhere. And you just begin to talk it up. That's really exciting, learning all those things and building your program. And I can't say it anymore. It's the intentionality that you have to have. Feel free to chime in. So we're going back and forth. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
I think that what you were saying with having the lights off, telling kids to come in, check out what you're doing, I think that's key. Students don't know what computer science is until they come into the class. A lot of the times, students get voluntold, hey, you have to take this digital studies class to graduate, and they have to choose from a variety of classes, and they show up not knowing what we're going to do. And so it takes a lot of, hey, first couple of weeks, here are different jobs in computer science, and then making sure you show a variety of careers. You've got ag, you've got fashion, you've got public safety, all these different places where they see it, and they find someone who looks like them and represents them. So they're like, oh, that's computer science. That looks fun. Or, yeah, I do like Spotify. I am curious about the people who have that cool job that get to talk to the music artists. Or I would love to make a feature in Spotify that allows me to filter it like this. Well, that's a job. That cool filter in Snapchat, that was someone's job.
Right. You want to wet their whistle with recruitment. So thank you for that. Art, talk to us, what are the demographics of your school site? And then can you match the demographic population in your CS classroom? Talk to us about what you've done, what you've experienced, how you've matched the demographics.
Sure. I started off about in 2011, and I started off as a pilot instructor for the College Board for the AP Computer Science Principles course, and I started working with the National Science Foundation. What really drew me in there was the fact that they started talking about two key things: the broadening of participation of underserved and I think underrepresented groups in computing and in the computing fields, which were women and ethnically diverse students, and also the fact about that there was a lack of equity access of computer science courses. So in saying that, in my district, it's really large. We have 13 high schools, 11 middle schools, and I found out that there wasn't a single computer science course being taught in our district. So I thought that was pretty criminal. I thought, okay, we really need to change this. Where, I think right now we live in the digital age. There's all the reasons why you're going to do it. But I really wanted to give kids the opportunity to take these kind of classes because I think it's a game changer for them. I think it's empowering for kids. And so when I first started, I didn't have the realization of the challenges it was my school site is 90% ethnically diverse, and it's also 90% on free reduced lunch programs. And a lot of our kids shy away from STEM courses or CS courses. We've done the research, and they get intimidated. They're not sure. They don't have confidence. And when I first started, I only had like 10% girls coming into the classrooms. And I realized that, okay, this is going to take a lot of, like you said, Nicole, and like you said, Tina, that it's got to be very intentional. I went to the Tapestry training as well. I went through and started figuring out a lot of things of how to get girls. That for me, the ethnically diverse part, in itself, my school is ethnically diverse. So I have a lot of diversity, but I don't have a lot of gender. I have usually anywhere 10 to 20%. It took about 8 years. This is the 9th year where I finally hit 47%. And the deal was, it was over what we did was I really started reaching out to girls by having the girls that were taking my classes go out and recruit other girls. And I also used the leverage of that the AP CSP course had the highest passing rate of all the other AP courses, and that in itself drew a lot of kids that normally were not attracted to AP courses. I mean, the deal is we really, when I talk with the counselors and I talk to all the different staff members in my school, I go visit a lot of classrooms. I go try to engage and do presentations and try to talk to kids about why they should be interested in taking computing courses. And the deal is that I tried to make the emphasis on the fact that it's a part of their world. No matter what they're going to do in the future, whatever they choose to do, computing is going to be a fundamental part of it. That's how their world is driven. So I tell them, just think about the things you're interested in. Is computing going to be an aspect of it? And most of them will go ahead and, they don't really think about future career choices, but they start thinking about it and they say, oh, wait a minute, you're right. I mean, how can you not get around that? And then when you see the videos that Code.org produces, and they get all the people from different careers, get involved, and you start showing those, and you start talking to people about, the kids about it, I started getting more and more kids more and more girls or women to come in and take the classes. So I think it's, like you stated, doing intentional things. What I did was that worked really well. I got a great idea from this colleague in Los Angeles of writing letters specifically to girls in classrooms saying, you know what, your teacher has talked to me and told me that they think you would be an outstanding candidate for taking computer science course. Why don't you come by and talk to me, and let's see if you want to take the class. And I just distribute it to all the girls. So they all get the same letter, and all of a sudden, it makes them feel like, oh, wait a minute, you want to encourage them, I think, and empower them. And I think having these strategies of doing things of that nature, it's a lot of work, don't get me wrong. Writing letters, and I do it with all the math classes. We have 2,800 kids. And so I try to generate, half of our school is women, so it's about, 1,600 letters or 1,500 letters. But I do it, and it seems, to work well. So this year we have 7 courses. Almost half of them are girls, and I'm really excited about that. So I think you have to do these intentional strategies that you're really targeting these groups so that they come in and feel welcome. The other thing that I must say that's really encouraging is when they see both of you being the teachers. You have women teaching computer science courses, and they have someone like me that looks like, a lot of my kids are Latino, so when they see me, they're like, oh, okay, well, here's someone that looks like me taking it. Now, not everybody can do this, obviously, but what I would encourage everybody is when they're recruiting kids, put up pictures of kids that look diverse in their classrooms and project that. If you could, look at different posters, different things that people put out, put in people from diverse backgrounds, put a lot of women. I have this great poster right there, the famous roboticist, Cynthia Brazel, and a lot of kids come in, and I got all these kinds of posters all over my classroom, and I think that helps really well to recruit, different groups into your CS courses.
Art, thank you so much. You said so much as you were talking. It's a game changer. Building confidence, exposure, and doing those invitations. Students often, we don't know what we don't know generally as people, but students especially, what you don't know, and it takes a teacher. If a teacher reaches out to you and say, you know what, I really want you to be in my course, that goes a long way. And students, feel really special when they get, special invitations about, oh, this teacher, that teacher. And so, you both have said some key things. And the reason I'm spending time on this, and we'll work through and we'll get through everything, recruitment is foundational. If we don't recruit and get students in our class, we don't have a program. And so sometimes we have to go above and beyond. And I was thinking about parent conferences. I'm not sure if you do anything with parent conferences around that time, if your principal lets you put something up, or even going to basketball games or sports events, the Booster Club. There's multiple avenues, and I really think the key is exposure. And if we do our job and expose, we will be able to raise that number up. And I'm going to pause unless you guys have something to say and ask, is there anybody in the audience that have anything that they want to ask? Please don't hesitate. We'll keep talking, and we want to incorporate it. Or is there anything that anybody would like to share that is in our audience chat. I know we do have an elementary person, and Nicole, you've done some things around elementary as well. It's different in elementary than it is in high school, and so before we go on beyond this point, what could you speak to elementary and art as middle? What would you do with elementary and middle to recruit?
I think with elementary, as a teacher, when you do those fun hands-on activities to engage students, again, that word intentional comes to my mind. When I've taught teachers how to have their students play with Legos to make algorithms, making sure that you kind of are aware, hey, let's have all the students who are, like on my desk, I have partner A, partner B, and then we do like Kagan strategies, like person 1, 2, 3, 4, and I kind of get like a scope of where are the girls at? Okay, if the girls are mostly in seats A, say, okay, this first time around we make our algorithm with the Legos, let's have person A manipulate the Legos, person B, you be the scribe, and then when we switch Legos and algorithms, then I allow partner B to be manipulating the Legos. But a lot of times I find that you have to help teachers recognize that you want girls to have a positive experience, or kids who might be shyer that have never played with Legos. You want them to have that first, oh, this is super fun. I like this. To have that first experience with that. Or when you even do fun things like, hey, how do we line up to the door? Oh, we're going to do this magic algorithm. The algorithm that we're going to use is going to be this, this, and this. But making it so that it's fun for the kids to understand. And then when they hear those words later, they're like, oh, I already know what that is. It's not new to them. So that it's something that they're like, I can do this, and I like it. It's fun.
That's so awesome, Nicole. That is so awesome. The experience that we give students at the elementary stage will help us in the high school. And we have to think of this in the long game. The long game, it's not, a short term. It's the projection of K to 12, K to industry. And so everything that the elementary teachers do is amazing. All right, let's talk about middle school really quickly. What do you say for middle school?
Well, what we do, I'm going to mention the elementary school space as well, because we do something special here at Sweetwater High School. I started a program with one of my students. He wanted to reach out and do community service. Our high school is required to do community service, the kids, 30 hours. He wanted to go back to his elementary home school and start a coding club, and he was the one that wanted to train him. So Google came out with a coding club for elementary school called CS First. And so what we did, we ended up giving opportunities for kids to earn community service by starting coding clubs to the feeder schools of the kids coming in. So we connected. So I have right now currently, it took like 5 years to do this, and it is something that I would recommend highly. It's a lot of work again, but it is paying off. I have 48 high school volunteers and 16 coding clubs at 10 elementary schools. So what I'm doing is I'm having all of my high school kids, they're not teachers, but what they do is we give them some 5-hour training in the summer. Then we split them up into three per school per coding club. And it's an amazing thing. It's the best thing I've ever done in education. We got about 400 elementary school kids learning from 48 high school kids. And what's really great is I have girls and I have, diversity, and they're engaging little girls to want to go ahead and get into CS. And I'm telling you right now, I walk in the room, there's the old guy. Yeah, we're ignoring them. My high school comes in, oh my God, the rock stars, the high school kids are here, we love them. The little kids love the high school kids, and my high school kids, even the ones that feel they're really tough, strong, I got some, tough, strong kids in my classrooms, they totally all melt. They fall in love with the little kids. They really want to help them learn, and it's super cool. We're starting the same thing with the middle school. So we're going out. I go out in the beginning of January and February, right before the sign up for the next classes in the following year. I make presentations if I can. I try to hold a parent-family night to discuss with parents about, hey, how about getting your kids engaged? would you like them to get into computer science, and then provide the reasons why, and then have my high school kids go there and communicate with them as well. And we're looking at doing the same thing, running coding clubs for my high school kids with the middle schools so they can start those programs as well, because we really want to create, I've heard this mentioned in many computer science education spaces about creating a pipeline, and so that's what I'm really trying to do, and I'm hoping by the time I retire, which I hope is in a few years, that it'll be normal. I'm going to have, 10 to 12 computer science courses filled with, the demographics of the school. And so that's the goal. But I think those two things have been very strategic, and it's been really helping out a lot.
That's awesome. And you're right, Art, it is about the pipeline, and I don't think you can ever retire, so don't get that whole word retirement out your head. Get it out your head. What I'm hearing, and Karen, I see your comment, it's passion. She said, amazing to get so many clubs supported through community service. How do we clone you, Art, and get this happening in all high schools? Would love to see service hours part of graduation and accountability. Yes. You agree, Nicole? Absolutely. So passion and commitment, and then, when the kids are excited, like you just described, recruitment, once that is all said, retention is easy. So I want to just finish what we said about recruitment. Talk to the counselors in one-on-one meetings. Create a presentation that has images of inclusivity, people who are figures that are in the field so that the students see people who look like them. And really, the whole point around all this is really empowering these students through exposure of what's possible. That's really huge. Now, we can't even get retention without, effective recruitment, as we've been talking, Art and Nicole. So, once you recruit the students, it's like, how do you ensure their success? Do you see the students sign up for additional courses? And we have about 32 minutes, so we'll temper this. What is the follow-on that you have? What have you found, Nicole?
All right. With my courses, I really have like a pathway posted up in my classroom so that students can see, well, what comes next? And then throughout the year, we talk about it often because I'm at the high school level, and we have a large high school, about 3,000 students in the high school, kind of like Art there. We start recruiting in November, and they are done filling out their schedules by February so that we can make the master schedule in March. So it's kind of like a whole year thing where we're always talking about, well, if in computer science principles, if you love the programming piece, great, go take programming 1 or go take this other thing. If you love the web development piece, go take this class. If you love the art aspect of it, great, take animations. And so it's really helping the kids kind of see what else is out there. And I know a lot of schools don't have a lot of course offerings because the teacher is teaching math or science, and they're teaching one section of computer science. And so finding other online tools is important for kids as well, so that if there isn't another offering, you're still giving them a resource that they can go to. I know that the Google CS First has a lot of resources. If your students are in computer science principles, they have access to the Pluralsight courses, but just having kind of like a list of things, places they could go, Khan Academy, CodeHS, places for them that they can keep exploring their ideas, because kids want to keep working on stuff. And so I always have that course listed. And then, as Art mentioned, once they're in the class, get them to find a friend and bring them. Or get those students who don't have a lot of friends, hey, get a friend, bring them, have them sign up. Or, go get kids who are in your cheer squad, or go get kids who are on the football team. Go get kids in the dance with you. Have them sign up so you have a friend. I would say it's better to have a friend than be solo, because then you have to become my friend. And they're like, no, we don't want to be your friend. That's not cool, Ms. Larson. So I would say get a friend, and that really does help with that retention, keeping them in there, and then having them feel like they belong, making sure that you notice things as they come in. Hey, I noticed you got some new shoes, or hey, I noticed that you were in the assembly yesterday. Oh, I noticed that you're on the choir, and I heard you sing yesterday. But as you notice things about them, they feel like they're part of a community, and they want to stay. because they feel like they belong.
Absolutely, absolutely. Art, did you want to add anything to retention?
You know, I think that Cole, it just stated it very, very well.
She did. She did.
I don't want to repeat
really
the same thing, but I think it is creating a professional learning community in your own classroom where everyone helps each other out. Nobody's on an island by themselves. You really emphasize the aspects of collaboration and also of communication. I think also making it very clear to kids that, computer science is all about failure. It's okay to fail. And I put that the first, 2 weeks, it's okay to fail. But what we're going to learn here is perseverance. How, you want to try to solve the problems that you encounter. And kids really, they really think about that. They're always driven by getting the right answer. What am I going to, how I'm going to score in the exam? Hey, let's talk about creativity. Let's talk about how you can create something with an idea and see if your computer can actually make it. So I think, also emphasizing the aspect of being creative, of working together, of being able to solve things, help each other out, and really foster that. I think Nicole just hit it right, the nail on the head. That's exactly what you want to do. And I think by kids doing that, they really like coming into your classroom. They look forward and they don't want to leave. Well, that's not true. Most of the time that happens. They don't want to go. It's funny, and I think by doing that and keeping their interests at the forefront, I think, telling them, well, what are you really interested in this, and how is computing actually used in what you're interested in is something that really captures their attention. So I got kids that are interested in skateboarding, and I'm like, well, how is computing involved in skateboarding? And then they find out they're using, the whole 9 yards, and they're like, wow, I didn't know that. It's really cool, And again, I think, yes, getting them to talk to their peers and having to come in and observe, I have right now the largest computer science A class in our district. I got 35 kids. I could have had 40. I just couldn't find enough room, and a lot of them, that's only their second AP class, but they got so interested. I must say, I only have 3 girls, and that's the next thing, is to increase the number of girls that take that course.
We got to work on that, Art, and you can do it. And Nancy Stevens said, I'll tell them to come back with their AP contract and bring a friend. I love it. Engage
that's right.
In the scope of the course. We got to get them excited. Make their experience enjoyable. Make them really be excited about this experience. We could, if you guys have any tools on polling or asking students, different things to get them engaged, it could be something like, what is your top 3 interests in computing? And then constantly exposing. So it's a work that we constantly do. Equity involves classroom management. It's like, how do you set up your classroom space for success? Do you do partners? Do you do pairs? Do you do certain groups? Do you monitor your students to know who work best? Are there certain disciplinary issues that you must address? Is any quick strategies you got for that, Nicole?
Classroom management, I've found that I mix my groups like every 2 weeks. And that way they get used to different people, especially in my computer science principles class. When they end up doing their portfolio piece for the create task, they can't ask me questions, but they can ask each other. So if they become comfortable with each other throughout the year, they're more likely to have friends later. So I use what's called Kagan best practices. There's been lots of strategies where you do classroom management, kind of like the forward partner, the elbow partner, having numbers on their desk, person 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do an activity, say, hey, all the number 4s, I want you to go collaborate over here, and here's the discussion topic for the day. All the number 3s come over here, kind of like 4 corners. But it's easily established because it's already like postmarked on their desk. Also, a lot of times I have to figure out who are the students in my class. And if I have a lot of ESL students in my AP class, they may have a struggle trying to figure out what the code does. So I have kind of like different sets of answer keys. maybe one set of answer keys on green paper has comments where they need to put their code. And so if they're really struggling, like, hey, here's these, they just show you the comments where you need your code. Maybe some of them need the full-on answer key and type it in and then just be able to explain to me in English what's happening. And so that would be on like a different color paper that would like kind of slide to them. So just kind of knowing how to help them, because if they disengage because they really are struggling, then you've lost them. And then that management goes all crazy haywire. So trying to figure out what their needs are and supporting them where they're at.
Right. I love how you talked about adapting and having color paper. We'll talk a little bit more about that in content. Hey, Art, is there anything that you'd like to share about classroom management and equity? Briefly, Art, we only have 23 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry I talked this. What's the last time?
No.
I will mention one thing with the Tapestry that I learned. I really I found that when I group all the women together in the first rows, because we have the way my space works, I find by pairing the women together just works a lot better in the space of about the first 4 or 5 months that I'm doing this. And I found out that the women, from what I understand, is that they're really helping each other in pairing, and they get really encouraged. And then all of a sudden, they're really, and I'm training also the guys, to work together and stuff and being respectful of each other. And I found out when I started doing that, because I always used to put, differing pairs. I didn't care about gender pairings or anything like that. But once I did that, I found that I got a lot more interest and focus from the girls in my classroom. And that's worked really well for me. And it's increasing the numbers year by year by doing that. And then obviously during the course of the year, as they grow and learn how to work with one another, I get to split them all up. I start changing them, like you say, Nicole, and that really works. And, I do a lot of ESL, a lot of cooperative learning strategies. If I can, at the end of the session, I'll share out this packet that it's an NSF-funded grant with CS Unplugged Activities with many, many Kagan instructional activities on there.
Art, can you type that in the chat so that at least the guests can get the links, and maybe we'll say that if you could do that, that would be awesome. So, we got to remember that this may be our only chance to ever pique the students' interest. And so, like you just said, Nicole and Art, you give them that different experience, mix them up, give them the opportunity, make it surprise, keep them on edge, keep them on point. It's like, okay, what is she going to do this week? So, the 4 corners, have your strategies. And as you both mentioned, the Kagan strategies, please put that in there for us, that link, so that we would have it. And, you think about it, some students may not have been challenged to this degree in other courses. In other courses, they go in the class, the teacher talks, wonk, 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 sage on the stage. But in this class, it's a dynamic, the parts are moving and everything is happening. So that management is very important to keep the interest up in the students and giving the students what they need. And so giving the students what they need, Nicole, you said it so beautifully. So be ready to talk about, you talked about assessments and working on that. So we look at computing via the lens of your students. If we did that, do they have little to no computing experience or a lot? And what we're finding that most students have very, very little experience. And especially when you're thinking about a classroom of equitable or equity-based classroom, we have our differences, and many people don't even have access to internet. Do your content embrace or integrate creativity? Does it embrace those who don't have everything at home, that doesn't have connectivity at home, accessibility? How do you create your content where you're inclusive in all those varied situations?
I think for me, I have my rooms, I'm lucky that I have my room set up, but I have 32 desks on this side, and then of course extra chairs on the end because I have 40 students. On the other side, I have 40 computers, and so I have pods of 4 students. So I always have them do group activities about the content we're going to do on the computer, so that if a student doesn't know something very well, first we usually do some kind of a journal prompt at the beginning of class when they walk in. It's my bell ringer. And then once they do that journal prompt, they usually talk with their elbow neighbor. and then there's their group, and then we usually come together as a whole group. So that if they didn't know anything to begin with, at least now they know what their elbow neighbor knows and their group together, and they have something they feel like they can share out, and then go on the computer and they have some kind of an idea so they feel comfortable. Or at least they know that their neighbors know something, or maybe they realize none of us know anything, so we really do need more help.
Right. And that just reminds me of the Think, Pair, Share, that whole metacognitive process, allows students to think about their thinking before they get called in. It's like, okay, we have a similar answer. Okay, now I have confidence to raise my hand, Art, what about you? What do you have? And thank you, Art. You have so much experience. You're so rich and you're so full.
Thank you you're very kind. Thank you very much. Well, I'm really also really glad. I've heard also a lot about Nicole, and I know she's doing fantastic work, and so it's really super cool to be here with both of you and with everybody else in our audience. But what we do is I use a programming platform called Alice. It was designed for middle school girls from Carnegie Mellon, and I just think that specific programming platform for my course works really well. And I think it's really engaging. I think it allows kids to be very creative. And I just try to talk to kids a lot about, don't just think of computing and, games and, they have certain experience with them, but think of, large community scale problems you can solve. I really firmly believe that. There is, I will share the link with you. There's a hashtag us versus hate website, and in the computer science principles course, the kids are required to create a performance task, create their own program. I'm going to challenge my kids to create a program that discusses social justice issues and also teaching tolerance. And I think incorporating those topics, it's not the only ones, right? But exposing them to that and having them, hey, can you think about how we can make the world a better place by doing these kinds of things, will, I think, really encourage them to really look at computing much differently. And I tried it last year, and one of my girls won a statewide award for her program on reaching out to diversity. So it was really cool.
Oh, wow. That is awesome. This is such amazing stuff. When we think about our content, we want to really focus on topics that engage, women in diversity in computing, like you have the poster on the board. If you had other posters, code.org does an amazing printout of posters. I'm not sure if they still have posters. They have posters of Obama, just all different types of people. So you want to find things in the media, posters that really just expose students to that. And Art, you just said it, really solving large-scale community problems, really getting them involved with diverse content where they're looking at things from a very logical, algorithmic, creative way. So you guys, you are amazing. So let's keep going. There's two important things that we have to remember in this. These classes are fun, and it is important for your future. So if we can really emphasize this for the students, I mean, it's going to be a win-win. The world is waiting for them as it relates to CS and anything in the CS-related topic. So we're right at 7:15. Are there questions? We're going to take a pause and say, are there questions? Let's see. Cindy said, hi, everyone. I'm an elementary tech teacher. You guys are amazing. Thanks for sharing your expertise. I'm curious, where do you look for strategies or ways to make your own teaching more inclusive? Are there existing CS curriculums that you use that you found helpful, or elements of curriculum that also address equity? Either of you can jump in. I've been meaning to ask you guys about the Tapestry. Maybe that's something that you can share, or share an online resource where, people can tap into it. Art or Nicole, you want to address that really quick?
You want to go ahead, Nicole, first?
No, I'll let you, Art. Go ahead.
So I think there's a really great there's a great organization called the National Center for Women in Information Technology, NCWIT, and they really provide a lot of great resources for how to engage women in tech fields, computing, STEM, and I think they're absolutely amazing. They've also branched out to now include ethnically diverse students. They really try to make diversity a focal point as well. But it's really great that they provide a space where they give awards. They give out NCWIT student awards. It's a big deal. And if the girls are creating these really amazing programs, they can go ahead and submit them, and they can actually win an award where they get the superintendent and everybody involved. We've had 3 award winners in my district, and they've connected with women in the tech fields that are now mentoring them. And they, as young women ambassadors, they actually go and promote NCWIT to other young women. And it makes them, that's an area where they can go ahead and find women that can mentor them, and they can actually talk to them about how to pursue higher education and also careers in the tech fields. So I think they're a great organization. I also, go ahead, Nicole, because I talked too much.
I will have to look up when I get a minute and not disconnect on the Tapestry. The Tapestry workshops that I've attended are a 2 to 3 day workshop, usually held right around 60 time or in the spring around the National Women in Computing and Technology. And it's a 2 to 3 day workshop where you go and you talk about equity, you talk about best practices, you talk about ways to engage kids and be intentional about who are you calling on, who do you notice that you're helping more often than not, how are you recruiting in the hallway, how are you talking to your counselors. But it's just a lot of different ways that even yourself, what are some of the unconscious biases that you have that you don't really recognize? And then I always think of what was the time when someone said something gut-wrenching where you're like, I didn't feel so good about that. And you don't really feel that great talking about those times. But in the professional development, when you're in a group of people who you're all looking out for the betterment of your students, a lot of times you'll go into those places that are hard to talk to because you're trying to figure out how can we address the needs of kids. And so being in some of those professional developments where it's intentional on discussing what are we doing and how can we just be more aware, and then figuring out where are you at in the scale to move forward.
Great. Both of you guys did a great job. Karen is asking, she asked, how are you using the theme for our code CS for Good? How do you use it to integrate with science and social studies classroom? How do you integrate across? So we're looking at integration. Any thoughts?
Well, what we did was I created, because I'm the president of the local chapter for San Diego for the Computer Science Teachers Association, and we really wanted to give all of the different teachers that are not computer science specific the opportunity to run an hour of code in a really easy way. I created a slide deck that in 6 slides shows them how to do the hour of code with minimal effort, and code.org in the hour of code has filters where you can select the subject area along with the grade band, which is like if you want 9+, with social science, you click those 2 options, you click enter, and then they populate with all the activities that have to do with social science and coding. And you could do it for any subject area. It's really great. It's really easy to get. I have a lot of the teachers at my school site participating right now using those filters.
Art, thank you, Art. That was amazing. The integration is everything, and tapping into those unplugged activities. I wanted to go to Clark Merkley. I hope I said your name right, Clark. He gave us a wonderful resource. It's free for free elementary curriculum that really emphasizes student interest-driven project-based learning. And that's true. When students can select their own interests encouraged by the teacher, we find existing equity gaps closing. So thank you for that, Clark. Karen, she asked about NCWIT aspirations essay questions. What problem do you want to solve? She's asking, would like some ideas on how to scale the deal or what problems you want to solve. How would you scale that to equity or equity-based thought in that essay? How could you help, scale that? Any thoughts on that? And if you don't have any thoughts, I'll just, okay.
You want to go ahead, Nicole?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I think what you do is the NCWIT will have like specific examples of how to do that. They're really good at making it aware to the young women that want to participate in the contest ideas of how they can address equity issues within the tech fields themselves. And like I said, they're really amazing on how they do that. I try to talk to women in my classroom and say, well, how do we empower more women to participate and think about maybe future careers in tech? Like, what would draw you? What would get you interested so that you can encourage more girls to go ahead and be a part of this? And so ECS has some really great ideas. Like I think Joanne Good and Gail decided to do the textiles unit. Is that correct, Nicole?
Yes.
Where they really I think that's a really good one. I think that scales. That offers the opportunity to do wearable technology, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you done it?
I have done it, and it's really cool because it starts out where you do circuits with copper tape, and you have a little light bulb, and you start out with, what would you light up in the world? And then they do a little writing prompt, they draw on paper, and then they start learning, well, hey, how can I make just this small light-up thing? And then you have that backwards design of what do I want to make, and how do I take conductive thread, make sure it doesn't cross over, plan where all my lights would be, and then you end up making a really cool piece like a jacket or a shirt where you're putting an LED light, like a lily pad light, and you're putting something on there. But the kids could really even make like a stuffed animal, and maybe the stuffed animal is going to check someone's heart rate, or it's going to check if someone's feeling sad, push this hand on the stuffed animal. If someone's feeling happy, push this one. It makes a different sound. So it allows the kids creativity and what do I create with this tool I have, and then how does it solve a problem? So I think it goes back to that equity piece of solving problems.
Yeah, and I think what you said was something really cool. You're opening a whole new door, right, for the women to look at things sort of differently. You're hooking them with something that they might be interested in, but then it starts expanding to thinking, well, I could do this. Why can't I go further in and maybe look at this other stuff that maybe I can be impactful in, right? Because if you think about it, and the way I like to tell kids is like, well, if you're not part of being, going into the CS Tech field, let's say that only, 30% of women and ethnically diverse students in our population actually work in those fields. Well, you don't have a lot more ideas that could be helping to solve problems, and we don't have enough people of gender or diversity going into fields. They can come up with different solutions. So I think what you said was really impactful, Nicole, and I think it expands them to think about this to open up in a different direction.
And the large-scale community, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nicole.
I was just going to say, it also can bring in little problems like, hey, what happened when they first brought in facial recognition, and bring in some of the problems that happened where the facial recognition didn't work with people who have different skin tones or different facial features. It opened up for someone else. Well, what's wrong with that? Why did it happen? Well, it happened because they didn't have a diverse team planning on it. So again, coming back to those real-world problems, the soap dispenser that doesn't work for some skin tones. Well, why doesn't it work? What about the vending machine that has where you pay, it's up too high? What if you're someone who is small and you're not even able to reach where that's at? How is that a disadvantage for someone else?
And then also don't forget the mobile phone and the fact that the women's hands were a lot smaller, and they were they had to go back and redesign it because it was not considering the hands were smaller for women, and they were more thin. So that gets lost, and that's really good. Those are great points that you're making.
Great conversation. So, it's really thinking about all the various audiences that we have to consider from an equity-based focus, and there's multiple facets of diversity that you have to keep in mind and really encourage for your students. Karen, we certainly hope that helped you and gave you some ideas. So let me just recap what we have here. What does equity-based teaching look like in CS classrooms? Teachers use culturally responsive teaching that make computer science learning relevant to the student's personal experience in and out of school knowledge, or their out-of-school knowledge. What does equity-based teaching look like in a classroom? We mentioned a lot of that, and Nicole and Art, you guys did said a lot around that. And I'm going to prep you to say your last 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds. So when I go through these, you have your whatever the clincher is you want to say. So what does equity-based teaching look like in CS classrooms? Teachers incorporate students' culture and out-of-school knowledge as assets instead of deficits, really honoring those differences. What does equity-based teaching look like in CS classrooms? Teachers connect classroom learning to the social and political context, the issues that are relevant to students in their communities, really being connected and curious about their communities and helping them to solve those problems like we were just talking about. What does equity-based teaching look like in CS classrooms? Teachers develop caring and respectful relationships, where you can really show who you are and really honor those students. What does equity-based teaching look like in CS classrooms? Teachers maintain high expectations for all students, not just certain students, that counter stereotypes about who should excel in computer science, not just the white male or the Asian male, but all students, diverse in language, ESL, diverse in color, gender, all those things that we have to keep in mind. What does equity-based teaching look like in the ECS classroom? We went between ECS and CS, but it's mainly CS. Teachers create opportunities for students to broaden participation in computing outside the classroom through internships, access to extra coursework at local community college, and summer programs. So there's so many opportunities out there. You want to just be intentional by getting your students involved. Art and Nicole, you don't even have 30 seconds. I'm going to give you the 20 seconds. What is your final? And ladies first. Nicole, go ahead.
My final is just be intentional and plan ahead what you're going to do. If you're intentional and you reflect, you're going to be much more thoughtful about who's in your class and who you can bring into your space.
Thank you, Nicole. That's been amazing. Art, 20 seconds, Art.
Computer science for all. Truly embrace the fact that computer science is for every single kid. And believe it.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. Art, Nicole, thank you. It's been a pleasure just spending time with you and giving strategies around equity for our CS classrooms. And I truly believe what you all have shared really has made a difference in the lives of our teachers who are listening tonight and who will listen from this point forward. Thank you all, the guests who were here. Thank you so much for being here. And Melissa, we're going to turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. You all did a wonderful job, just as I anticipated. A couple of things. We are celebrating CS Education Week this week, and on the screen here, we want you to join in on the fun. So we ask that you take a picture to show us how you're celebrating, and using Twitter or Instagram, include the hashtag CSEdWeek 2019 photos, or there's also a link on our website where you can upload your photo directly. And we hope that you will participate. If you are not a member of the community, it is free. Membership is absolutely free for you and all of your colleagues. You just sign up and you can get connected with other CS teachers, participate in free webinars like this, and get access to free resources. We do ask that you take a survey. I'm going to close out momentarily, and it's going to seem awfully abrupt, but I want you to send you to that survey, and we want you to give us some feedback. So thanks, everyone. I wish everyone a lovely winter holiday season and hope you get lots of rest and rejuvenation. Tina, Nicole, and Art, you all are rock stars.